The engine of the black G-Wagon hummed silently in the shadows of the Okoli gates. Jidenna Okoli, a man who terrified boardrooms and controlled millions, felt his hands sweating on the leather steering wheel. He wasn't supposed to be here. He was supposed to be at a gala in Victoria Island. Instead, he was stalking his own househelp. He watched Nnenna, his quiet, invisible maid, slip out of the service gate at exactly 5 p.m. She didn't walk to the bus stop. She ran. She ran like her life depended on it, clutching a bag that looked too heavy for her slender frame. He followed her. What he saw in the next 12 hours would shatter his cold heart. He watched her change into faded scrubs in a public toilet to wash hospital floors. He watched her stand over boiling oil at 4 a.m. to sell Akara by the roadside. But when he finally saw why she was doing it, who was waiting for her in that cramped, smelling hospital ward, Jidenna's knees hit the dirt. My story family, welcome back. If you believe that you never truly know a person's battle until you walk in their shoes, hit that subscribe button. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? Let's see how far our family reaches today. The General Hospital was a place where hope often went to die, choked by the smell of strong disinfectant and the rusty iron of overcrowding. Jidenna stood in the shadows of the pediatric ward, his tailored Italian suit feeling like a costume in this theater of suffering. He had left his security detail outside. This was something he needed to see with his own eyes. He watched through the smudged rectangular window of Ward 4. Inside, the woman who polished his marble floors without a sound was now humming a melody that pierced through the glass. Nnenna sat on the edge of a narrow metal bed, stroking the forehead of a sleeping child. The girl, who looked no older than 7, was frail. Her skin was pale against the harsh fluorescent lights, and tubes snaked from her thin arms like translucent vines. This was Chisom. Jidenna leaned closer, his breath catching in his throat. As Nnenna bent down to kiss the girl's cheek, the child shifted, turning her face toward the window. Jidenna froze. The girl's eyes, even closed, had the shape of almonds. Her high forehead, the curve of her jaw it was like looking at a ghost. A cold shiver ran down Jidenna's spine, sharper than the Harmattan wind. She looked exactly like Akara, his late sister, just before the leukemia took her 10 years ago. The same disease, the same wasting away. Nnenna reached into her bag, the same bag he had seen her struggle with earlier, and pulled out a crumpled wad of Naira notes. She counted them, her lips moving in silent prayer, then wept. It wasn't the loud wailing of a market woman. It was the silent, shaking, sobbing of a mother who knows she is losing the war against death. Jidenna backed away from the window, his chest tight. He had fired people for being 5 minutes late. He had scolded Nnenna for a streak of dust on the TV. He didn't know she was fighting a battle that would have broken a lesser man. He stumbled down the hallway, the image of the dying girl burning into his mind. The dashboard clock in the G-Wagon read 4:15 a.m. The city of Lagos was still sleeping, wrapped in a blanket of early morning fog, but under a flickering street lamp in Obalende. Nnenna was already at war. Jidenna watched from across the street, his engine killed to avoid drawing attention. He felt a heavy stone of guilt sitting in his stomach. He had spent the night in the air-conditioned silence of his car, while she had moved from the sterile cold of the hospital to the choking smoke of a roadside kitchen. She was setting up a large iron pot over 3 large stones. The wood hissed as it caught fire, sending plumes of gray smoke into her face. She didn't cough. She didn't complain. She simply wiped her tearing eyes with the back of her hand and began to peel beans. Her movements were mechanical, driven by a desperation that Jidenna had never known. He watched her mix the batter, her arm whisking furiously. These were the same hands that dusted his crystal chandeliers. These were the hands he had looked at with disdain when she missed a spot on the rug. Now, seeing them covered in flour and soot, trembling slightly from exhaustion, he felt like a criminal. Suddenly, Nnenna swayed. The exhaustion finally hit her like a physical blow. Her eyes rolled back, and she stumbled forward, dangerously close to the vat of boiling vegetable oil. "Nnenna!" Jidenna shouted, his hand jamming against the door handle. She caught herself on the wooden table just in time, shaking her head violently to wake herself up. She looked around, confused by the shout, but Jidenna had ducked back into the shadows of his tinted glass. He breathed heavily, his heart hammering against his ribs. She was killing herself. For the girl in the hospital. For the pride that kept her silent. He gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white, He couldn't just watch this anymore. He couldn't go back to his mansion and pretend he didn't know that the woman who served his tea was burning herself alive to keep a child breathing. He started the engine. Today, things would change. Today, the boss would become the beggar. The morning sun filtered through the high windows of the Okoli mansion, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. Nnenna placed the silver tray of coffee and sliced yams on the dining table. Her hands were trembling so badly that the china clattered, a sharp sound that echoed in the silent room. She looked like a walking corpse. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and her skin was gray with fatigue. "I'm sorry, sir," she whispered, reaching to steady the cup. "I will be more careful." Jidenna didn't look at the food. He looked at her. "Sit down, Nnenna." She froze. Maids didn't sit at the dining table. "Sir?" I said. "Sit." His voice was low but commanded obedience. Terrified, she sat on the edge of the velvet chair, her hands clutching her apron. She expected to be fired. She expected him to say he noticed her sleeping standing up. Instead, Jidenna slid a piece of paper across the marble table. It wasn't a termination letter. It was a check. A blank check. "I know about Chisom," he said softly. Nnenna flinched as if he had slapped her. Her eyes widened in panic. "Sir, I don't bring my problems to work. I do my job. I saw you." Jidenna interrupted, his voice thick with emotion. "I saw you at the hospital. I saw you at the roadside. Why didn't you tell me?" Nnenna stood up abruptly, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Because it is not your burden, sir. I work for my pay. I do not beg." "This isn't begging." Jidenna stood up too, his frustration rising. "Your daughter needs a transplant. You are killing yourself for peanuts while I throw away more money on wine than you make in a year. Let me help her." Nnenna's eyes flashed with a fire he hadn't seen before. "And then what? What do you take from me in return?" "Rich men don't give gifts for free, Mr. Okoli. I may be poor, but I am not for sale." She turned to leave, her back straight, clutching her dignity like a shield, leaving the check untouched on the cold marble. "My people, Nnenna is refusing help because of pride and fear. Do you think she was right to walk away when her child is dying? Hit the like button if you think a mother should swallow her pride to save her child." If Jidenna was the cold stone of the Okoli family, his older sister Ada was the razor wire. She arrived at the mansion 2 days later, her heels clicking against the marble floor like the ticking of a bomb. She didn't knock. She never did. Nnenna was dusting the grand staircase, her movements slow. The exhaustion was eating her alive. She hadn't slept in nearly 40 hours. "So, you are the little witch casting spells on my brother." Ada's voice cut through the silence. She stood at the bottom of the stairs, looking up at Nnenna with eyes that held no warmth, only suspicion. Nnenna froze, clutching the duster. "Madam?" Ada laughed, a dry, humorless sound. She reached into her designer handbag and pulled out a manila envelope. She tossed it onto the stairs. It landed at Nnenna's feet with a heavy thud. "I have eyes everywhere, Nnenna. My private investigator tells me you have a dying bastard child and a mountain of debt. A perfect tragedy to trap a sentimental man like Jidenna." Ada took a step closer, her perfume smelling of expensive lilies and malice. "He thinks he is saving you. I know you are just looking for a lottery ticket." "I have never asked him for a kobo," Nnenna said, her voice trembling but her chin raised. "I work for my money. And you will work somewhere else?" Ada hissed. "Inside that envelope is 2 million naira. More than you will make in 5 years of scrubbing toilets. Take it. Go to your village. Cure your daughter or bury her, I don't care. But if you come near Jidenna again, I will make sure no one in Lagos ever hires you again." Ada turned and walked away, leaving Nnenna alone on the stairs. The envelope lay there like a poisonous snake. 2 million naira. It could buy blood. It could buy medicine. It could buy time. But the price was her honor, and the accusations stung worse than a whip. Rain lashed against the windshield of the Rolls-Royce, blurring the chaotic Lagos traffic into streaks of red and yellow light. Inside, the silence was suffocating. Jidenna sat in the back, staring at his tablet but seeing nothing. "Oga," the voice from the driver's seat broke the quiet. It was Ifeanyi. He had driven Jidenna since they were young men fresh out of university. He was the only person who could speak to the billionaire without fear. Jidenna looked up. "What is it, Ifeanyi?" "She is not a gold digger." Jidenna frowned. "Drive the car, Ifeanyi. I took her to the market yesterday when you sent me. Ifeanyi continued, ignoring the warning tone. She bought medicines, not the cheap ones from the chemist on the corner, but the real ones. She didn't buy food for herself. She drank water and ate a garden egg. That was her lunch. Jidenna looked out the window. Ada says she's playing a game. Madam Ada sees enemies in her own soup. Ifeanyi scoffed. But you, Olga, you see her. I see you looking. Since Miss Amara passed, you have been a ghost in this car. But when you talk about this girl, you become a man again. Don't let your sister's poison kill the first good thing that has grown in this house in 10 years. Jidenna didn't answer. He couldn't, because he knew Ifeanyi was right. He had started coming home early not to check emails, but to hear Nnenna singing in the kitchen. He had started leaving the library door open just to catch a glimpse of her passing by. He wasn't just pitying her. He was terrified that if she left, the house would go back to being a tomb. Turn the car around, Jidenna said suddenly. Sir? We are going to the hospital, not to watch from the window. We are going inside. The hospital corridor smelled of bleach and old sickness. Jidenna walked briskly, Ifeanyi trailing behind him like a silent bodyguard. He reached Ward 4, just as the chaos began. Nurses were running. Machines were beeping a frantic, high-pitched scream that signaled emergency. Clear the way! Clear the way! A doctor shouted, pushing a crash cart toward the bed by the window. Jidenna's heart stopped. It was Chisom's bed. He pushed through the crowd of onlookers. Nnenna was there, but she wasn't screaming. She was slumped on the floor, her back against the peeling wall, her eyes wide and vacant. She looked like a doll whose strings had been cut. Nnenna. Jidenna rushed to her, ignoring the stares of the nurses who recognized the billionaire in their midst. He knelt beside her, grabbing her cold hands. Nnenna, look at me. She blinked slowly, focusing on him with difficulty. She stopped breathing. She whispered, her voice cracking. My baby stopped breathing. Then, her eyes rolled back. Her body went limp in his arms. The exhaustion, the hunger, the stress, it had finally taken its toll. Doctor! Jidenna roared, his voice shaking the walls of the ward. Help her! Help them both! He scooped Nnenna up in his arms. She felt terrifyingly light, like a bird made of hollow bones. As he held her, looking at her pale face, the wall he had built around his heart for 10 years crumbled into dust. This wasn't just his maid. This was the woman who had woken him up, and he wasn't going to let death take another person he cared about. Not today. Jidenna had the hospital move them. No more rusted iron beds. Nnenna lay in a private VIP suite, hooked up to a drip of saline and vitamins. Chisom was in the intensive care unit down the hall, stable but critical. Jidenna sat in the armchair beside Nnenna's bed, holding her worn leather handbag. The nurse had given it to him to find her ID. Instead, he found her soul. Inside, tucked between a Bible and a photo of Chisom, was a small, dog-eared notebook. The cover was peeling. Jidenna opened it, expecting a diary or a shopping list. What he saw made his breath catch in his throat. It was a ledger. October 12. Salary received. 30,000 sent to pharmacy, and 5,000 kept for food. November 4. Olga gave 9,000 bonus for hosting guests. Saved in envelope. Do not touch. December 20. Christmas bonus. 50,000. Saved E for repayment of broken vase, even though Olga said forget it. Page after page. Every extra naira he had ever given her. Every tip. Every keep the change. From a grocery run, she hadn't spent it on herself. She hadn't even spent it on her dying daughter. She had saved it in a separate envelope marked debt to Mr. Okoli. She was starving herself, working 3 jobs, and watching her daughter fade. Yet she refused to spend his money without earning it. She wasn't a gold digger. She was a woman of such terrifying integrity that it shamed him. He looked at the envelope Ada had given her the bribe. It was there, unopened, with return to which written on it in shaky biro. Jidenna closed the book, tears blurring his vision. He had judged her silence as weakness. It was strength, iron strength. They are trying to destroy her name, family. Ada thinks she has won, but the truth is in this little book. If you want to see the wicked humbled and Nnenna vindicated, make sure you are subscribed. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Nnenna woke to the smell of lavender and the soft hum of a high-end air conditioner. This was not the general ward. She bolted upright, panic instantly seizing her chest. Peace. Nnenna. Jidenna's voice came from the corner of the room. He looked tired, his tie undone, holding the little black notebook. I know about the money. I know you were saving to pay me back. You are the most stubborn woman I have ever met. Nnenna opened her mouth to argue, but the door flew open. It was Dr. Adeyemi, the head oncologist. His face was grim, a mask of professional sorrow. Mr. Okoli, madam, the doctor said, not wasting time. Chisom is fading. The chemotherapy has wiped out her immune system, but the leukemia is fighting back harder. She needs the bone marrow transplant within 48 hours. Or, he didn't finish the sentence. The silence screamed the word death. We have checked the national registry, the doctor continued, looking at his clipboard. No matches. Her markers are rare. Nnenna let out a sound that was half scream, half sob. She buried her face in her hands. She is my only eye. If she closes, I am blind. Jidenna looked at the weeping woman, then at the doctor. He felt a strange pulling in his chest, a sensation he hadn't felt since the day he buried his sister Amara. It wasn't logic, it was instinct. It was a whisper from the grave. He stood up, removing his suit jacket and rolling up the sleeve of his white shirt. The gold Rolex on his wrist glinted under the light's useless metal that couldn't buy life. Test me, Jidenna said. The doctor blinked. Sir? The chances of a non-relative being a perfect match are 1 in a million. It is virtually impossible. I deal in probabilities every day, doctor, Jidenna said, his voice hard as granite. And I have learned that sometimes the universe has its own math. I am O negative. My sister died of this. Just test me. He extended his arm. He didn't know why, but he knew. This wasn't just about charity anymore. This was destiny. The VIP waiting room felt like a courtroom where a death sentence was about to be read. 4 hours had passed. Jidenna sat across from Nnenna, watching her pray. Her lips moved silently, her hands clutched so tightly that her knuckles were the color of bleached bone. Suddenly, the silence was shattered. Have you lost your mind entirely? Ada stood in the doorway, flanked by 2 confused security guards. She didn't look like a Foundation manager. She looked like a warlord. She marched over to Jidenna, ignoring Nnenna completely. Ifeanyi told me, she spat, her voice shaking with rage. You are testing yourself? You? The CEO of Okoli Group is offering his body parts to a maid's child? Jidenna, she has washed your head. This is juju. It has to be. Ada, stop, Jidenna warned, standing up. His voice was low, dangerous. I will not stop. She rejected the money so she could trap you for something bigger. And now you want to give her your blood? Are you God? Ada turned to Nnenna, her eyes full of venom. You wicked girl. You will not destroy this family. Miss Okoli! The sharp voice of Dr. Adeyemi cut through the shouting. He stood at the door, holding a file. His face was pale, his expression unreadable. The room fell deadly silent. Even Ada froze. We have the results, the doctor said, looking directly at Jidenna. He swallowed hard. Sir, in my 20 years of medicine, I have never seen this. Nnenna stopped breathing. It's not just a match, doctor, Adeyemi whispered, tapping the paper. It is a perfect match. 10/10 HLA markers. The specific antigen profile. It is identical to what we see in siblings. It is identical to the profile of your late sister, Amara. Jidenna let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. He looked at Nnenna, who was staring at him as if he were an angel descended from the sky. Ada stumbled back, grabbing a chair for support, her mouth opening and closing, her arguments turning to ash in her throat. It seems, Jidenna said, his voice breaking with relief, that Amara is still looking out for us. The pre-operation room was cold, sterile, and terrified. Jidenna sat on the edge of the gurney, wearing a blue hospital gown that exposed the vulnerability of the man beneath the billionaire's suit. He wasn't a CEO here. He was just a donor, a vessel. Nnenna stood beside him, her hands trembling as she held a plastic cup of water for him. She looked at him with a mixture of worship and terror. You don't have to do this, she whispered, her voice thick with tears. Sir, you can pay for the surgery. You can fly in a donor from America. You don't have to cut your own flesh. Jidenna took the water, his eyes locking onto hers. Nnenna, look at me. Stop calling me sir. My name is Jidenna. And this isn't about money anymore. Chisom has my sister's face, and now she will have my blood. We are family now, whether you like it or not." Across the room, little Chisom was being prepped by 2 nurses. She looked tiny, swallowed by the white sheets. She waved a weak hand. "Uncle Jide?" she croaked. "I'm here, little star," Jidenna called back, his voice cracking. "Are we going to be superheroes now?" she asked, a faint smile touching her pale lips. "Yes," Jidenna smiled, a real, genuine smile that reached his eyes. "We are going to be blood brothers, or blood cousins." Ada watched from the observation glass outside. She didn't storm in. She didn't scream. For the first time in her life, she was silent. She watched her brother, the man she thought had turned into stone, holding the hand of a maid's dying child with a tenderness that broke her heart. She saw the way Nnenna looked at him, not with greed, but with a love so pure it burned. The orderly arrived. "It's time, sir." Jidenna laid back. He squeezed Nnenna's hand one last time. "I'll see you on the other side." The double doors swung open, swallowing them into the bright lights of the operating theater, leaving Nnenna alone in the quiet, praying to a god who had finally answered. 2 weeks later, the sterile smell of the hospital had been replaced by the rich, spicy aroma of fresh pepper soup. Jidenna sat up in bed, wincing slightly. The doctors had taken marrow from his hip, leaving a deep ache that throbbed with every movement. But the pain was sweet. It was the price of life. Down the hall, Chisom was sitting up, her color returning, her body accepting the new cells like thirsty earth drinking rain. Nnenna entered the room, carrying a flask. She wasn't wearing her maid's uniform. She wore a simple Akara dress, vibrant with patterns of yellow and blue. She looked like a woman reborn. "You need to eat," she said, pouring the soup. "My mother sent this from the village. It heals bones." Jidenna watched her. "You are still serving me, Nnenna." "No," she said, handing him the spoon, her fingers brushing his. "I am caring for you. There is a difference." The door creaked open. It was Ada. The room went tense. Nnenna instinctively stepped back, lowering her head. But Ada didn't sneer. She didn't march. She walked in slowly, clutching her expensive handbag like a shield she no longer knew how to use. She stopped in front of Nnenna. The silence stretched, heavy and uncomfortable. "I hired 3 more investigators," Ada said, her voice quiet. "I told them to find dirt on you, to find the secret boyfriend, the hidden accounts, the lies." Nnenna looked down at her hands. "I have nothing to hide, madam." "I know," Ada replied, her voice cracking. "They found nothing. Only a woman who works 3 jobs. Only a woman who sings to her child. Only a woman who saved my brother's soul when I didn't even know it was lost." Ada reached out and took Nnenna's hand. The maid flinched, but Ada held firm. "I am sorry," the Iron Lady of Lagos whispered, tears spilling onto her cheeks. "I thought you were the dirt on our shoe, but you are the diamond we didn't deserve. Thank you for saving his life." "And hers." Nnenna wept, not from sadness, but from relief. "The war was over. They are trying to make amends, family. If you want to see how this love story ends not in a mansion, but where it all began, make sure you are subscribed. You don't want to miss the proposal." 6 months later, the 4 a.m. fog of Lagos was thick and heavy, smelling of diesel and damp earth. But tonight, a convoy of 3 black SUVs cut through the mist, pulling up to the roadside shanty in Obalende where Nnenna used to fry bean cakes. Nnenna, sitting in the passenger seat of the lead car, looked confused. She wore a silk dress now, her skin glowing, healthy and rested. "Jidenna, why are we here? Is there danger?" Jidenna turned off the engine. "No danger. Just memory." He stepped out, his Italian loafers sinking into the red mud. He walked over to the spot where the old woman who took over Nnenna's stall was fanning the fire. The smell of frying oil filled the air, the smell of struggle, the smell of survival. He opened Nnenna's door and helped her out. The market women paused. Passers-by stopped. They recognized the billionaire, standing in the dirt. "Nnenna," Jidenna said, his voice loud enough for the gathering crowd to hear. "I could have taken you to Paris. I could have rented the Eco Hotel, but I brought you here." "Why?" she whispered, her heart hammering. "Because this is where I fell in love with you," Jidenna said, looking deep into her eyes. "Not when you were serving my tea, but when I saw you here, fighting for your daughter, burning in the smoke so she could live. I don't love you because you are beautiful, Nnenna. I love you because you are strong. You are the iron that sharpens me." He slowly dropped to one knee right there in the roadside dust, amidst the sachet water wrappers and the charcoal smoke. The crowd gasped. He pulled out a ring box. Inside sat a diamond that caught the flickering light of the fire. "Nnenna Okoli, will you do me the honor of being the mother of our family? Will you help me raise Chisom and teach me how to be as brave as you?" Nnenna looked at the ring, then at the man who had given his own bone to save her child. Tears streamed down her face, washing away the last traces of her old life of sorrow. "Yes," she sobbed, pulling him up to kiss him. "Yes, Oga. Yes, my love." The market women cheered, their ululations rising into the Lagos morning, piercing the fog. Behind them in the car, a healthy, chubby-cheeked Chisom watched through the window, smiling as Ada wiped a happy tear from her own eye. The maid had become the matriarch, not by changing who she was, but by being exactly who she had always been. And that, my family, is how pride can almost kill us, but love will always save us. Thank you for journeying with me through Jidenna and Nnenna's story. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Stay blessed.